Okay, so I'm gonna try and do this as best I can. I'm actually sitting in my bed this time. My computer was just here. I didn't really feel like moving it. I'm kind of lazy today, but I'm bringing you my review on Epoch's Otter Mesh. I actually got this piece from my friend Nick, or the_stringer, I think is his Instagram. He sent me this piece to try out, and I have to say, I'm actually pretty impressed with this mesh. To start off, I mean, $40 for a piece of mesh, guys. I'm not sure that I would be buying this mesh for myself or other people. I do not believe in spending copious amounts of money for a product that might be better, but I think that you can get products that are that where the price is less and you still get a good quality product. That being said, this is a good product. I'm not saying that by any means that this mesh is bad. It is interesting. First impressions. I mean, it is made by String King. Epoch actually had String King make their mesh for them. So something that I realized right away was that it had a very similar feel to String King. As you guys know, this is the lightest piece of mesh on the market. I believe that is still true. In your hands, it really does. It feels like paper. It is very light. The only problems I had with it were maybe that I was questioning its durability at times, and also that because it is so thin, you have problems with rebounding. So what I mean by that is when you string up this piece of mesh, the ball will hit your mesh, but because of how it's made, because of how thin it is, how light it is, you have none of that give and take that you need in a piece of mesh to be able to catch the ball effectively. There is no. It acts more of like a trampoline rather than like a catching mitt. As a baseball reference, that's probably a bad one to use, but you guys get what I mean. There is some problems, and I've heard people complain about that there is some rebounding issues and that it makes it more difficult to catch the ball. I actually did not experience that issue. I didn't really play with this mesh very much. I strung it up in that Evo 4X, the mint one, but that got actually unstrung and sold to somebody, so thank you for buying that. I need to get rid of the rest of my heads, but to finish off this review, something else I noticed quickly about this mesh is that something I love that String King does is that they have a very consistent diamond size. Their diamonds are centered, they are not uneven, and they are very consistent through the entire piece of mesh. This is something that you may not realize. It may not affect your stick, it might, but I think that if you're gonna buy a $40 piece of mesh, guys, you really do need everything to be worth that amount of money. That is why I do enjoy looking at String King. I think that they produce a product that is very high quality, especially for the price that you guys are getting it at. I'm talking about String King 1S and 1X right now. Of course, this mesh is more expensive. That being said, this is the lightest mesh. I think Epoch did a good job. As far as stringing it goes, it's very straightforward. It's very simple. I thought it was just incredibly similar to stringing like a piece of String King 1S. I believe the diamond sizes are 17.5mm, which is what String King uses. And I do like the slightly larger diamond than the 15mm. I think that it strings up nicer pockets. I think you get um, you get more ability to string a better pocket. So I'm not going to say that this mesh automatically makes you a better stringer. But what I'm saying is that it gives you the ability to be able to string more pockets that suit your playstyle more effectively. That's what I'm trying to say. So something else I noticed about this mesh is actually it is quite strong. There have been complaints about String King mesh ripping on the bottom when you do not use a shooter bottom string. That is still true for this mesh. However, I think that there will be no problems with it ripping in the center of the mesh. There's no way that your mesh is gonna rip because of a sidewall or something like that. The only reason that it would rip is because there's so much pressure and so much friction that comes along, especially with the mesh being less forgiving. I was talking about the rebounding earlier. So that comes into play and becomes a problem on the bottom piece of your mesh. So if you're going to string up a piece of String King, or if you're going to string up a piece of this Otter mesh, I suggest using that soft bottom string with the shooter. However, if you do want to use a regular bottom string that is a nylon or some piece of cross lace, something like that, just a regular string, there are bottom strings tutorials. I think I want to say Chillax has one. I'm not actually positive on that, but I know that some people have come up with bottom strings that take away all of that extra friction and all of the extra force on the bottom string, allowing it to survive longer. Of course, there was that problem with it ripping. Something else I noticed right away was that this mesh broke in very, very quickly. It has a very, very soft feel. There's nothing to it that compares to a harder piece of mesh. I do like how String King does their mesh. It feels very, very similar to 1S, which is it's very, very soft, but however, you are able to still get a defined pocket. You don't have any problems with it bagging out or getting affected by weather, which I think is very, very important if you're going to spend that amount of money on a piece of mesh. Something else I noticed was that the texture of the mesh is also very similar to String King. I believe it's exactly the same. Actually, it's made by the same company, of course. But I really enjoy this kind of texture. I think that a slightly rougher side, slightly rougher than soft mesh. It's in between soft mesh and hard mesh as far as like what this feels like on the rough side. And I think that you are getting the perfect amount of hold, the perfect release, and you are really optimizing your pocket when you're stringing a piece of String King or Otter mesh. So I do think the Otter mesh is good. I like the product, but for $40, guys, I would suggest just going and buying 2 pieces of String King. I don't think that going and buying a $40 piece of mesh will improve your game to a drastic point. I think that may help in certain circumstances, but the difference between $20 and the difference between shooting 10 miles an hour really isn't going to make a difference in your game. I think that if you're going to buy and spend $40 on mesh, there are much better options than spending $40 on a single piece of mesh when you can buy multiple pieces for that same amount of money. So, this is my quick review on Otter mesh. I will probably have some more thoughts for you guys later. I'll try and post them on Instagram. Something else that thank you guys for all the people who have bought heads recently in the last couple of days. You guys are really helping me out. I'm going back to school soon, so I need to get some money for books and tuition. College is very expensive, so if you guys are trying to get into school, remember that money does play a part, and remember that we are student athletes, and student does come first in that. So if you are going to play sport in college, remember to keep up in your academics, guys. It's very important that you become smart individuals, and along with that, I mean, you want to stay healthy and you want to play your sports. And I do play lacrosse in college, and it's a lot of fun, but your studies do come first, and I think that's important for any high school athlete, for any middle school athlete, all the way up through the professional level. People are talking about how important it is to stay focused on the academic level, because this is what really is going to help you in the long term. I know I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, but it is really important to remember, guys, that you are more likely to get a job because of academics than you are because of athletics. And I think it's important to remember and kind of keep in perspective the fact that we are individuals. The amount of people who go and play professional sports are very slim, and I think that if you want to work at that, I think that's great. I think that you should do something that you love, but at the same time, you have to realize that it is not always practical to think in those terms. And I know for me, I really wanted to play college at an NCAA level, but I realized that I was not quite good enough. I did not think that I was going to be able to play at that level, and now I'm playing at an MCLA school, which is the club lacrosse, the D2 MCLA. It's a lot of fun. It's more laid back, and I really am able to focus on my academics rather than worrying about sports 24/7. That being said, guys, this is Otter mesh. I'm sorry, I kind of got off track. This is Otter mesh. I think it's great. For the price, I would recommend buying different mesh. If you're going to invest $40 in it, though, it is worth the $40. That's all I'm going to say. So, thank you guys. Have a nice day.